Day 14 of Diddy's trial, and his former personal assistant, who's going by the alias Mia, is back on the stand for cross-examination, and Brian Steele told the judge she will likely be on the stand past lunch. Brian Steele's tactic was to continue tearing down her credibility by going through her resume, old text messages, and he finally got the judge to allow him to bring in the video she made for Diddy's 44th birthday. He started by going through her resume from the time she was a personal assistant to Mike Myers through the years she assisted Diddy. Her resume said she had thick skin and she could handle 24/7 demands, and she said she's not so sure about the thick skin part. Then asked her if passports were collected with Mike Myers, and she said she doesn't remember because they didn't travel. He said, but you traveled with Mr. Combs' companies, and she said, oh yes. And he said, so when you said they had your passport, they had everyone's passport, true? And she said, yes. And went on to ask her if she was strong, if she was a leader, if she spoke up for herself, to which she said she did not speak up for herself. She didn't know if she was a good leader, but said, I'm good at teaching people, not at enforcing. Then came text messages that happened between 2018 to 2019, and remember, she left Diddy in March of 2017, and he made her read them. One said, Merry Christmas, I love you. Another said, just thinking of you today and every day. And another one where she told him how he had saved her in her nightmare when she was running away from R. Kelly. That one specifically, Brian Steele said, the person you say R-worded you saved you, and they objected, and the judge told him to rephrase. And asked why she was sending these text messages if she was no longer in his grip, she said it's psychological. Another one was 5 months after Kim Porter passed away, and he said, why would you send it 5 months later? And she said, 5 months is not a long time. Again, she brought up it's psychological, and he asked her, why do you keep saying this is psychological? And she said, it was psychological. I was brainwashed. He was my only authority figure for years. Remember, she was helping him film a documentary, and she was asked if she would carry around a video camera, and she said, yes, it was required. Apparently, Diddy had auditioned for a James Brown part, and she had told him she would email him that footage. Brian Steele asks her if she has any footage of him berating her, and she of course says no, because imagine your boss, who you're terrified of, is coming at you and you think, let me pull up my video camera, not even my iPhone, my video camera, and start recording him. He says, I would not have been allowed to record that. Common sense. He asked if there were any text messages, and she said, yeah, the one the prosecutor showed of him saying, let's go to war. He asked any other text messages. She said, yeah, of me reaching out to other people in the office and things they had seen. And he says, so nothing about him brutalizing you? How would we find out? Obviously, the prosecutors objected, and the judge sustained, because that is the whole point of the trial. She also says, and I quote, you didn't document abuse in that environment, you survived it. Then Brian Steele brings up a text message from Diddy to Mia in 2020 where he says, I'm glad you're well, love. Please send me footage for the documentary. And then he asked her, it's 2020. The Me Too movement is strong for 2 years. You could reply saying, I remember the bad times. Right? Replied saying, I would have never said that. And Brian Steele says, because it's not true. So Brian Steele wanted her to read her text message response to Diddy. And she wrote, love you too. So many crazy things like Mick Jagger trying to take me home and that Baccarat game, my pink bedazzled iPhone. There's trillions of stories. Of course, I'll send to you. I was bamboozled by Heather. Remember the scrapbook I made you? I've got you. Asked her, why didn't you text Diddy? You bamboozled me. And she said, I was brainwashed. And asked by who? She said, Puff. And he goes, how did he bamboozle you with a part of his body in yours without your consent? To which was objected and sustained. She made it very clear. The highs were highs, the lows were lows. I was punished whenever Puff was violent, making me believe I had done something wrong. He was praised by the public. And she also said, once again, he threatened to tell Cassie. Brian Steele said, when he threatened to tell Cassie, why didn't you say, great, let's tell everyone what you did to me? Objection, sustained. She didn't have to answer. He goes, you said you have a moral obligation to speak up. She said, now I do. He said, why not in 2017? I was brainwashed. Asked, when did you first say me too? She said, when I first saw him being held responsible, now I have therapy. Brian Steele asked her, you're telling the jury you were scared of Mr. Combs, true? And she said, true, I was scared of him when he was scary. And this is when they try and bring in the video, and the judge finally says it's allowed. Took a short break. The jury and Mia are out of the courtroom, and this is when the prosecutor is arguing that this should not be allowed. He says, we have now sat through hours of humiliating cross. Mr. Steele has insulted this witness, saying things like, God forbid, after things she said. By one, Your Honor, let the exhibit in, but now we have reached harassment. Given the tone, we do not think continuing is appropriate. She has carried herself with grace. This is adding to trauma. Eyes are on this trial. The judge said, I have not seen yelling. My understanding is that his God forbid is an apology, not an attempt to intimidate. Now Brian Steele is telling the judge she said she had no time to herself to tell others about what Diddy did to her. These images show Mia with friends and family over the years, and he wants to bring this in as more evidence. The judge said, why bring in photos of baby showers? What is the relevance? He said, because I like to do the impeachment that way. And the judge said they are excluded, which means he cannot show these photos as evidence. At this point, it's 11:15. I'm starting to feel like Mia's going to be on the stand all day, but we'll see where this goes from here.